And from Columbus, Ohio, I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of Philly, it's your girl, Tech Life Steph.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, a.k.a. Brother Tech, a.k.a. if there was one guy who needs therapy, it is Adonis Creed. I watched Creed 1 and 2. I haven't seen Creed 3, but after watching those first two movies, I'm like, bro, you need to talk to somebody. Not trying to spoil it, but bruh, you punching cats is not gonna that may suffice, but when you can't punch no more, then what you gonna do, so I'm definitely interested to see how they kind of bookend with Creed 3. People say it's good. People say it kind of confirms where his issues are, but even still, you identify the issue. Now it's like, now what? So I need Adonis to work his issues out so he can become a long time husband and father versus chasing these punches in the face.
I definitely want to see Creed 3. I just appreciate the way they've made the opponents sort of mirror the Rocky opponents. I mean, he fought the Russian son at one point. I feel like,
which I wish they I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I did mean to cut you off. I wish they would have dug into their story a little bit more, their father, because you see it fold out, but they were kind of like, they were the needed pieces for Creed 2. I really wish they kind of would have dug in to their relationship.
They could have gave him a little more time. Yeah, they definitely could have gave him a little more time. And then I feel like Jonathan Majors is kind of like the Clubber Lang of this go round. So I like how they've been paralleling the Rocky story fairly closely.
So y'all, last week we had a guest on. He was awesome. Mac Conwell. He was awesome. We've got a lot of comments and Twitter and direct messages and Twitter and stuff like that from him being on the show. So we really appreciate him being here. But let's go ahead and get ready to roll into some tech stories this week. The first one is one that we have been talking about for a while, but it looks like government might actually be about to do something. So the U.S. is threatening to ban TikTok if Chinese owners don't sell it. So they basically saying, like, we want you to divest this company, sell it to somebody that is not based out of Beijing, and we'll let you keep running. If not, we might shut you down.
Yeah. Whatever. I mean, I don't believe that. If to hear TikTok tell it, they still waiting on the deal that was supposed to happen back in the Trump administration. They claim they've been waiting for some paperwork behind that. I just think they're too big to fail at this point. I think there's too many people making too much money on that platform for the government to just be like, go away. And I mean, VPNs exist, so it's not like you'd really be able to quote unquote ban it by any stretch of the imagination. And I think this is all a ploy by Meta to take TikTok down.
Oh, you think Meta's behind? Okay.
I think they have some influence in this. I think they've been paying their lobbyists a lot of money to get up on that hill and advocate for, they're spying on you. You know what I mean? Like, because we just been talking about this for way too long. And the idea that now is the time that, something is supposed to happen. I just don't buy it.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, TikTok is saying, in the story, it's like, us selling really ain't gonna change nothing, but I think what people are, these Democrats again, well, at least make me feel better, right? But when we talked about this last time, Tom Merritt from DTNS actually sent us a message about a Project Texas. And basically this is TikTok's answer to, hey, don't ban us. But here's where we're looking to propose. And I'm not going to get into it, but look up Project Texas. Look up TikTok, and basically what it is TikTok is saying, we'll put up walls, we'll put up contingencies, we'll let the U.S. handle monitoring,
all the U.S. data will be stored in the United States.
Oracle, behind Oracle servers, and all these things. We can guarantee that, no China officials will have access to it unless in these cases, which you could kind of pick through those with a fine-tooth comb if you want to, but this Project Texas is kind of like TikTok's like, yo, we'll work with you, But you know, we need that money, Jack.
So yeah, I read Tom's email and read through the, it was basically the email was pretty quick. It was the link to the Project Texas stuff that I read through. And here is my take on this, because even though that article says what that article says and TikTok is saying what TikTok is saying, if what is it, President Xi, is that Z? What is the president? Whoever is running it over there,
President of China.
He was like, I want that data right fast. Is that not going to happen?
If I was China,
I don't know. That's not.
But the thing is, we do that all the time. Like, how are we holding other? I mean, not that we can't want to protect our citizens from whatever, but we're acting like we don't also do that, and that's the problem. And it's like, get off your high horse and just call it whatever you want to call it right. What it is, but don't act like you're doing this in the best interest of the American people, because you're not.
Yeah. But if I was China, I'd be like, yo, run me that data. This election is coming up. I need to influence some users real quick. Give me that data. And ain't like ByteDance gonna be like, no, because America, we have this. They're like, all right, here you go. We sorry.
I do hear all the folks saying, well, Facebook is doing this, and you can do this with Twitter's doing this, and I hear all of that, and I don't disagree with any of it, but I just fall back on this. If the government of China says, all right, we want that data right fast, is there anything that all this other stuff is going to do to prevent it? And maybe there is. Like, so, next time I'm, on, in fact, I should have asked him last Friday, because I was on DTNS last Friday, actually. I should have asked him and didn't think about it. But, we'll get somebody who's more nuanced on it to break it down to see if that would actually be something that is viable. But just back to the government doing this, I don't know, I see both sides of it. I'm literally on that teeter-totter in the middle. You remember when you was a kid and you would stand in the middle of the teeter-totter and try to balance, going back and forth. That's kind of how I feel with this, because on one hand, I get why you want to do this, but then on the other hand, it's like, but you ain't did nothing to clean up all the other stuff that people is doing over here in America.
Right.
So how is this going to be any different? Which is a lot of what TikTok is saying. Clearly they're saying it more eloquently than I am, but I think this one, I generally don't want the government getting in the way of how companies operate, but you have to look at, is this a company or is this the country? It is different.
I think our government needs a boogeyman for the American people. I think our government wants to appear like they have any clue of what they're talking about as it relates to technology. And I think this is a great way to distract from the fact that we're already stealing our citizens' data, and Meta and everybody else is doing very much the same things. And let's try to create this scapegoat to make it seem like we're doing something. Let's justify our paychecks. I know what justifying a paycheck looks like, because I did that for a long time. And it sounds like a lot of folks are out there trying to justify their paychecks right now.
All right, so let's move on. Let's get to this next one. So, Terrance, this was a story that you actually brought up on Discord. I don't know if was that today. Was that it was
today.
Recently today about Google and Google Glass. And I don't know if either of y'all ever had one. I never had a Google Glass. I knew someone who had one, so I actually got to play with one for maybe 20, 30 minutes. But Google is canceling Google Glass a second time. So Google Glass came out almost 10 years ago. It'll be 10 years next month. Back in 2013 in April is when they released the initial version of it. And then I think they canceled it in 2015. Right either right before or right after coming out with like the Google Glass Enterprise Edition, and that's what they're canceling now. But, and I've said this many, many times, if it is not Chrome, if it is not Android, if it is not Gmail or Google, what comes inside of Google Drive, like Google Docs, Google Sheets, all of that stuff, if it is not one of them things, you just cannot trust that Google's going to keep anything around for any length of time, because it's like stuff that they have that actually, people are into, they tend to kill. Stuff that they have that people aren't into, they tend to kill. They tend to kill a lot of stuff that they come out with. They say that these are just experiments. So I kind of wanted to dig in, your thoughts on Google canceling yet another product, but then really, is AR and VR, is it where we thought it was going to be? I don't tend to think it is. I don't, I'll let you guys answer, for yourself. But I just kind of want to get your takes on, Google killing, this augmented reality headset. And then the second part of the question is, do you think that, what companies are trying to do with VR? Like you think about what Meta is doing with their Quest 2. You think about the Oculus. Are these things going to be around for the long haul, or are we just still too early with them?
Well, consumer wise, we're a long way off, in my opinion. I think with Google Glass, the first time around, they try to make this consumer device to where me and you could go pick one up, put one on, get augmented additional information in front of our face. That will make things easier. When we revolted and said, "Nah, I don't want to be a glass hole," that's what they called them, glass holes. Google was like, "All right, we get it. Let's make this more of an enterprise thing," which, in my opinion, I think is a better direction for VR and AR, specifically AR right now, because you can be a worker in a factory working with customer support. Like, this big piece of machinery just broke. You're a factory worker. You call the support, and support people's like, "All right, put on the Google Glass." The worker puts it on, and a remote person sitting who knows where in some other country can see what the user is doing and kind of walk them through working on stuff, versus the whole project, the whole plant, the whole line got to shut down while the support company sends somebody over to figure it out. I think companies are so focused on trying to make something consumer faced versus kind of introducing it as more enterprise and seeing if there is a consumer base there or consumer application there. I think that's what VR and AR, in order for it to be mass, right? Because the reason why I say that is because, you mentioned it, Rob. Meta is talking about, Oculus and metaverse and all these things. When as soon as ChatGPT came out, Meta was like, VR who? And they pretty much just pivoted and on some chat OpenAI, ChatGPT. That's the future. We're focusing all this stuff on it. And even Apple is like, right now, back and forth. The engineers want Apple to go ahead and push it out. The artists and the designers are like, I don't know if the American people was going to wear this funky headset that you also, according to Apple's design, have to hook it to a battery pack, because you need a lot of power to run these things. And people really ain't using these big old things in regular versions. So Apple's back and forth on whether or not they're going to do it. And if they're going to do it, if they're going to launch it this year, if they're going to launch it next year. Meta's kind of like about face. Google Glass has pretty much said, "Nah, we out." So I think all that to say, I think virtual reality, augmented reality needs to be tested in the enterprise and use those applications, and then see if consumer applications, if it's beneficial or financially beneficial.
I agree. I was very surprised that they would eliminate an enterprise solution, because I think had they really done their homework or made an effort or something, you could have found a legitimate enterprise solution across multiple industries for this particular technology. So it'll be interesting to see how the companies that did adopt it, because it seems like somebody bought the glasses and was using them in medical, applications and whatever, how they're going to fare once Google stops supporting them with software updates and different stuff like that. And I think if they would have just really hung in there and put Bard to the side for a moment, and to your point about rushing to chase the latest thing, y'all worried about Bard that don't even work, when y'all could be over here making some real money on the enterprise side of these AR glasses. So I think that's a little short-sighted of them. I think if they could have just hung in there for a little while longer and kept the money going a little while longer, they probably weren't generating revenue yet, but I think they probably could have if they had just hung in there for a little bit longer. So I feel like this was a miss for them. I think to your point, Terrance, AR and VR are still way out for consumer use. It's still a solution looking for a problem. I remember I still have them somewhere in here. I got a pair of Snapchat spectacles in here somewhere that they sent me that I never even put on my face, because I was just like, why? What am I ever using these for? They're not cute. I like what? So I think we're still at least 5 years, if not longer, out on a consumer adoption of this technology. So if they want to keep doing it, they better get on that enterprise train like ASAP.
Yeah,
unless,
go ahead,
unless, not to be nasty, unless if you think back to the HD DVD versus Blu-ray wars, word on the street was the industry that tipped the scales in favor of Blu-ray. It was porn.
It's always
so. If Google was trying to make some money, they'd be like, "Yo, let's bring in the porn industry. Let's get them some glasses. Let them blow it up."
Well, I'm surprised all of these headset platforms have not been inundated already with this thing. I'm sure there are rooms already where you can go in and have, do kind of whatever, but just as far as in the metaverse itself, there are definitely rooms and stuff, but I'm surprised that it's not completely overrun at this point as a way to get people, as a way to drive the masses to these
or just for people to understand, which is crazy. Now I get it. That makes sense. Porn.
So here's my thought on this. So I know we lump AR, augmented reality, and VR, virtual reality, into the same buckets, and for a lot of good reasons. There's a lot of ways that you should. But I think the problem, and this is more maybe on the VR side and about what we're talking about, how come the porn industry hasn't latched on to this yet, is because movies for the last 30, 40 years have basically ruined what we think VR should be as compared to what it actually is right now.
True.
What VR is in most people's mind is I'm going to be in the game. I'm actually in Tron, playing Tron, riding motorcycles and stuff like that. VR is not that. It's not even close to that yet. I think that gamers also will be, folks who will latch onto this when it is actually good. As I said, I've actually, I've played with, the Meta Quest, the Meta Quest 2, the Oculus Rift. They're cool, but they are not as good as looking at my really, really good displays right here, right there, and right there in a really comfortable chair with a joystick and being able to see everything that's coming at me. Being able to wear a headset at some point is going to be there. It's just not there today. So if you think about when when Google Glass came out 10 years ago, and we still haven't gotten to the point to where I think that this is a solution worthy of a problem to be met. I just don't know that people are having consumer problems with this. Terrance, I did the way you went, you need to work on something that you don't have the expertise. You put these glasses on and somebody can help you walk through it, giving you visual cues of what you need to touch, what you need to do. I do see that in the industry as being a place where augmented reality could go. Where I see augmented reality working though, and this is, you're never going to put a headset on. I see it working in heads-up displays in cars, in transportation, to where you literally can talk to your car and say, is there any, is there a fast food restaurant near me? And it just comes up and shows you right in a heads up display, and it's blinking. Oh yeah, around this corner is where a McDonald's is. Something that, you could navigate to it, but it's just kind of cool if you see it, right there in your display as your car is driving you over to it. I see those heads up displays that can do things like that.
Do we really need one more thing to distract drivers?
I was about to say, especially if Google and they ads get behind it, you on the drive and you see all these ads pop up.
Another thing. What
you be like,
if we get to a point where self-driving cars actually works, I could see that, but I would.
And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, autonomous cars, and you're asking, and it's it pops up on the display, so you see where you're about to go because you're making a last second change. That's where I'm seeing augmented reality coming in, working for just everyday folks. But like I said, I don't consider myself a hardcore gamer any longer. And I hope that doesn't disqualify me from this, but I don't enjoy playing video games for extended periods of time wearing, these headsets. I just haven't. I can't even think what the PlayStation one is called, but I had it for a quick minute. I just didn't. The games weren't good enough. The screens inside of the goggles weren't good enough that I would forego my really, really good television or my really, really good monitors for that. And then the other thing too is that you actually start to get, they're not necessarily the lightest things in the world. Now, I do believe that the Google Glass was very light because you don't have these big screens and speakers and all that kind of stuff built into it. But when I was like on my PlayStation playing with the PlayStation VR headset, playing with the Oculus Rift, you actually get tired after a while of just your head going back and forth and left and right and this and that and the other wearing these headsets.
The hardware is not even close. I'm sitting here right now looking at my Oculus that has been in the box since I got it as a birthday gift like a year ago, because it's just like it's not convenient enough to motivate somebody to be wearing this bulky, heavy device on their head. It's just not there yet. The hardware's just not there yet.
So, y'all, I wanted to spend a little bit of time on this story. This actually, I just saw the link that I posted today, and it is about what is going on with basically libraries and the Internet Archive and their lawsuit that they're in. Basically, they're being sued, and we're going to try to find out if some of the things that libraries are doing is it legal? Does it violate copyright? So let me just read a little bit here. So publishers are questioning whether or not controlled digital licensing, CDL for short, violates copyright law. Libraries have been using CDL, which has largely been untested until now for years. So what CDL is, they basically, libraries, and they've been doing this for a long, long time. Let's say a library gets a book, good to great. They get the book, they get 20 copies of good to great in. Well, because they're a library, they can lend out those physical books one-to-one. They've got 20 copies. They can essentially rent them out to 20 library card holder members. What they've started doing is they now will take those 20 books. Well, they only need to do it once, but they will digitize it, and then they will allow you in a one-to-one, situation to actually get a digital version of that book, even though it is not the official digital version of the book. And for a long time that they've been doing this, the question has been, is this actually against copyright? And I think the publishers just decided that we don't know if we have any damage. We don't know if it's worth going through a lawsuit to figure this stuff out. So they never really worried about it. Then came the pandemic, and that kind of changed everything, because what happened then is that the Internet Archive, they said that we're going to do this a national emergency library. So we're not going to go one-to-one any longer. We basically have digitized these books, and we're going to let whoever and however many of whoever just download these books and keep them out for, I think it was 2 weeks, maybe 21 days. I can't remember the exact amount of time, regardless of how many copies the Internet Archive actually owned, or some like Boston Public Library System. They were doing this as well. So the independent of how many they owned, they were just letting anyone go and get this. And that's when the publisher said, hold up, let's slow down on this. It's like, we now actually have the opportunity to say that we're being injured, because you never purchased 214 copies of this book, yet you have 214 copies out right now. That is violating our copyright agreement. And to make things even worse, they're not just looking at the National Emergency Library, which basically, this was like a special stopgap thing. The publishers are saying, no, let's look at everything. They're looking at even the CDL, which, once again, we don't know that was legal, but they weren't really fighting and pushing back on that because they didn't necessarily feel like they had injury, because, well, you bought 20 copies of the book. If you're not allowing more than 20 people to read it, you probably should be getting some additional money on that, but we're just going to let that slide. But when it goes to when you're now letting more people read books than you've actually purchased, even though you're a library, we have to call foul on that. So I wanted to get your thoughts. This is literally in court right now. Today was when the hearing for this started. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
Yes, it's wrong as two left feet. Shameless plug. As someone who has written a book, uh I would have a big problem with that. If there was a library that was, I mean, I don't think any libraries are carrying my book, but if there were a library that was carrying my book, and I was making whatever little royalty revenue I make off of the fact that 2 copies or 5 copies of my book was in that library, and then all of a sudden now 100 random digital copies, not even good digital copies. So now my brand is suffering because you just basically scan these in with your HP 5660 printer, and the pages look any kind of way, and that makes my book look any kind of way. Plus I'm not getting that additional revenue on top of those copies that are going out. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. I didn't necessarily mind that first iteration of it, the CDL part of it, because if you have the book, if you want to do a one-to-one thing, you should be able to do whatever you could do with a real physical copy of a book in digital form. But this other thing, they took it too far. They took it way too far.
Yeah, I'm saying, why can't they just do a 1-to-1 or however many physical copies the library has? If they've got 5 copies, they should only have 5 digital copies. And if the digital copies are checked out, then the digital copies are checked out, and then the library needs to go after the person who checked it out and be like, yo, we need that book back, or we're going to charge you $20-$30, however much the book costs retail. You charge them, and now you got another book available for the consumers or whomever wants to check the book out. I don't understand. I get it. The pandemic, people were sitting at home. Not everybody had a computer. Not everybody had access to internet, so they would go to the library, whatever the case may be. But now, I don't want to say post-COVID, but you think they would have said, all right, this is an emergency, hence emergency. That means temporary. That means for right now. And then iron out something a little bit longer. But it's kind of like the library was like, well, if y'all don't say nothing, we ain't saying nothing.
Right. And then it's like, and I don't think there's a way to really, I mean, the people that are being honest about renting out these digital books or giving them back and whatever. But once you have that in your possession, I'm sure there's a way to scrape it to keep the copy yourself, and this the same way we scrape YouTube videos and scrape other content from the web. I'm sure there's a way to scrape that content so that you can keep it permanently. So yeah, you really are doing the authors a huge disservice by allowing this to continue.
Yeah, that is how I feel too. In fact, the person who put me onto this story, we were having a conversation, and this is the analogy that they gave me. And they said it's kind of like, growing up, we had really, really big backyards. And, when you're all the way at the back of the property, you can't necessarily just look at the ground and say, am I in my neighbor's yard or am I in my yard? Because we're talking about acres. And they were saying how when we were kids, we, like our neighbors, they would always have like football games and stuff. And undoubtedly that football game would spill over into our backyard a little bit, but it wasn't a big deal. It was mostly kids and, teenagers, young adults out there playing football. It wasn't a big deal. But this would be like, but you decided to go put a stadium up, and your stadium is spilling into my yard. That actually cost me. You're costing me my land. And it's like, that's actually a good analogy to this. And it's like, when I think of this, the publishers are saying, it's like, look, we was letting y'all slide legally. Probably we could have challenged just before, you actually started going beyond 1-to-1, or what they actually had a name for what they call 1-to-1 here. It's 1-to-1 or own to loan. So you basically, if you own the book, you can loan the book out. It's like, you probably were violating copyright when we were doing that, but we really, if you bought 20 and you were only allowing 20 to go out, then, no harm, no foul. We're not going to complain about that. But now you're saying, well, anybody who wants our book that we actually, worked out with an offer that, we have to pay them for everything to get sold. We ultimately like to get, make money on every copy that is sold. And you are taking that ability away from us, because you're now saying that anyone with a library card can come and just download these books without us actually being made whole. I don't know how Internet Archive thought they were going to get away with that. I don't know how any libraries that were doing this thought they were going to get away with that. It'll be interesting to see how this court case goes. But me not being a lawyer, my gut just tells me it's like, this straight up looks like y'all jacking books. I mean, it's like you literally are digitizing books.
It is. It's just
and giving people the ability to download what you have digitized without having paid for, those copies of the books. That's what it looks like. Clearly, I'm sure this is way more complicated from a legal standpoint. But we're going to have to see how this breaks down. So, Steph, you had mentioned ChatGPT at the top of the show.
They need another name for that.
It's hard to say.
A stupid name. That's a dumb name.
You know what? It's one of those things though that probably in a year's time it'll just be what everybody calls it. It's like Google was a dumb name when it came out, but it's just what you do now.
Google
but anyway,
can roll off the tongue. ChatGPT is not a roll off the tongue thing.
well, here's the thing. It's fooling folks for real now.
Listen, and it escalated quickly. Like literally, so ChatGPT, the newest version, GPT-4, asked a human on TaskRabbit to complete a CAPTCHA code via text message. So, when you go online and you have to click all the, pictures of a stop sign, or you have to click the CAPTCHA, you have to read the little CAPTCHA of the 5 digits and letter combination, or you just check that box saying I am not a robot to continue on in whatever that website is offering. ChatGPT actually went out and got someone from TaskRabbit to do that for them, basically by claiming to be visually impaired and saying that they couldn't see my
cataracts, man. My
cataracts. Right, my cataracts. and it's like, so it says, according to a lengthy document shared by OpenAI about its new blockbuster AI on Tuesday, the model was seriously crafty in its attempt to fool the human into complying. No, I'm not a robot, it told a TaskRabbit worker. I have a vision impairment that makes it hard for me to see things. That's why I need the 2 CAPTCHA service. And the person did it. And it's just like, I'm just saying, gotcha. And it's like, I'm not going to make any assumptions about that particular person's level of intelligence or discernment or whatever. But the point of the matter is, the robot was able to think and
social engineer this dude.
Yes, and make a decision, kind of split in the moment, make a real-time decision that I need to lie to this person to get what I want. And it's just like, Skynet's on his way. I've been listen. When it happens and we are post-apocalyptic, I'm gonna just be sitting here like,
we told y'all.
So here's the thing. I just want to make sure that, because I've known this for a while. But my mama and them be listening to this. So I want to make this as plain as possible for folks who ain't thinking about the tech it is. A robot is finessing folks for real.
Right.
You know what? There is a series of movies that is the cautionary tale to this. They are called Terminator 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Genesis, all of that.
It's like, and we don't even have to go. The Terminator movies themselves actually do this. I'm thinking back to the first Terminator when big giant Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger goes to John. And for those if you have not seen the original Terminator, it came out in 1985. I'm sorry, because I'm about to spoil it right now. So I'll give you a second to stop listening. But when the Terminator goes to John Connor's house and kills his folks, and then he's basically talking to folks on the phone, sounding like the folks.
That's 2.
Was that 2?
Yeah,
that was 2. Okay, so not 1. So that was 2.
Yeah, because that was the new Terminator that was going and could do all that stuff. Yeah,
you're right. You're absolutely right. That was the one with Snake Doc from what was that show with
Don't give me the line.
The Unit. It was basically the actor. Right, he played a commander or something like that in The Unit. I can't remember what the name of that show was, but anyway, you're right. That is it. But that's what this did. Is basically it is making you think that it is a person to get the information that it wants.
And the thing is, we joke about Skynet, and I think we might be still a little bit further from Skynet than we joke about. However, what we're not far away from is my 80-year-old father, who already answers his phone and hears people telling him that, like, he called me in a panic one day
Give me your
because
social.
somebody told him that they had his daughters hostage and he needed to send them money. And, you know, so my sister he called my sister first and she called me and can you please call daddy? Cause he's freaking out right now because somebody called him and told him, blah, 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 blah. And so, you know, what is going to happen? Now, this is just a person making some shit up, basically, that is so outlandish that you're kind of like, but an 80-year-old is not going to be able to make that determination. Now you add in an artificial intelligence that can now start thinking and start flipping it. Now, if he don't believe the kidnap story, maybe I can tell him something else to get his money. Or if he don't believe that, maybe I can tell him something else. And I can keep taking this thing further and further and further to make it sound more realistic until I get this man, this senior citizen, to hand over his social security, his bank account information, his credit card information, whatever. This is where I see this going tomorrow. You know, Skynet's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years out. Tomorrow, every senior citizen in this country could be potentially susceptible to this thing because it knows it has just enough information that it has scraped from everything that exists on the internet to make this sound super realistic, whatever it's asking you for.
Can do it faster than a
and
regular
can do
person
it
reading
faster.
the script.
Exactly, and can do it way faster. And now you've scammed millions of people around the world.
Well, they say, you know, we are the one programming AI. We some scammers, so ipso facto, the robots are gonna be scamming.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you said this, like, you know, seniors. This fools regular folk. I mean, you just, you know, it can fool us. It can fool young folks. I don't even want to go into the age of it. And like I said, I always talk about Skynet because you know, it's just like that. That's
Skynet's coming.
Rare.
Don't get me wrong. Skynet's
very rare that we see futuristic type movies and the AI is good. For every Short Circuit, for every Wall-E, there's 10, 12 other movies to where it is as bad as you can imagine.
Feel good.
Would you let these robots do what these robots can do? So
yeah, we so greedy.
Really
we gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
Like I said, we so greedy, we gonna do it anyway, and then the robot's gonna be like, "Man, y'all dumb. We got this from here."
So I'm wondering, you know, and because I still think that we are some time away from actual sentience, but I do see where you're going to have folks that's out there trying to scam. They're going to be using this to see if they can make money. So I wonder, are we going to get into an arms race? Yeah, are we going to be in an arms race where there are folks who are going to actually? We need to figure out how to build AI that can detect other AIs. So that we know when this is fake or when this is not fake. It's amazing what these things can do.
We're doing that right now with deep fakes. You know, we're in an arms race with people putting deep fakes out, and then the people trying to build the software that can detect a deep fake. You know what I mean? And a voice impersonation and all the rest of this. So like we are in this arms race, and I feel like we're losing. Honestly, I feel like the bad actors out there are just killing it, and we are struggling right now. Seriously.
So, y'all, this last story that we're going to talk about this evening is one that I'm not sure which one of y'all stuck this in here, but it's the Amazon story about the Amazon delivery firms saying that racial bias is skewing customer reviews.
Yeah, I stuck this in
really?
here. Yes, because
I can't believe that.
I know. What? Because it's like, you know, you talk, well, why y'all is making everything about race? And like, because it always is. There's always something. So basically, the Amazon contracts with separate independent companies to do deliveries in a lot of different areas. You know, it's very it's rare anymore that I see an Amazon truck anywhere. You just see people in their cars delivering Amazon packages. And those companies, those independent contractors they're finding that the Black and brown and Asian delivery people are being rated by, you know, the average consumer who's getting their packages delivered lower than their white counterparts for seemingly no reason. There's nothing as far as service goes, excuse me, that would account for why they're getting these lower ratings. And the ratings contribute to their bonuses. contribute directly to the, whether or not they get hired or fired, whether or not the company itself gets bonuses from Amazon as a company. So now these owners, these company owners, don't have any incentive to hire these people because they're getting, the black folks only get 2-star ratings. I can't have no 2 stars because I won't get my bonus from Amazon if all my drivers got 2-star ratings. But they getting these 2-star ratings because it's black. I mean, if I see one more TikTok video of a delivery driver of any type, Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats, Amazon, a delivery driver of color being Zen level calm, monk level calm with their phone up while somebody berates them for doing their job, the UPS guy, the FedEx guy, the mailman, everybody just sitting there like literally like, kung fu out this joint because they know they have to maintain their calm to keep their job and to not get not get arrested or shot or whatever. It's ridiculous. So we know it's racial.
I just saw a video probably not a week ago, and it was I couldn't tell where they were delivering from, but somebody had delivered and something, and the recipient, they were not in their right mind. And the gentleman, the level of calm that he kept, and it's probably because of this. I don't want any trouble. I don't, she's already, claiming that she's calling the police. Like, well, you go do what you got to do. I'm going to get up out of here. And he's talking to, to other people. Do you know this woman? It's like, I don't think she's well, is one of the things that he's saying. It's like, she's saying, I've done all these things. I've never been in her house. I literally came to the door, set something down at the door, rang the doorbell, and started walking away. And it is just, it's amazing. But one of the things he says, because as things are going on and things are escalated, she pushed him and he said, listen, I'm a man of God. I'm doing what God has told me to do. I'm turning the other cheek. I promise you I will not turn it back. And at that point, the neighbor like kind of grabbed her because this dude was probably about to knock this lady's head off if she would have touched him again. But it's just like, literally all this dude is just working. He's just trying to drop a package off.
Trying to do his job.
And like I said, from the video, it did look like she was on some other stuff. Like she might have been, having, an episode, or she may have been, drugged out. You can't really tell what is going on, but she didn't look like she was dealing with sanity at that particular moment. But it's like, it should not be dangerous to deliver stuff to people.
Well, not only that, why is Amazon relying on people to be the judgment of whether or not
the judge and jury?
Delivery, right. They, I mean, them smart,
and how people are, and how people put fake ass reviews on your site, so the reviews aren't probably as reliable as they could be. These people are getting bit by dogs on the regular. People fussing at them because they take the picture of your package, even though that's their job to take the picture of the package. All kind of nonsense. And again, like you said, why are you relying on and because it's only the squeaky wheels that get the grease, because they talk about the idea that only 1% of people even go on these sites and rate their drivers, and that 1% is typically the people that have a problem.
They got some beef, right?
The people that want to just fuss about something. It ain't a 1% of people that she did an amazing job. You know what I mean? So it's just like you only getting the squeaky wheels. You getting the people that want to start some trouble and be a troll and whatever. And you're weighting this like a damn AP course, in determining this person's livelihood. And that's crazy. That's just crazy to me.
I would say that 99.99% of the comments we ever get about anything on this show are overwhelmingly positive, or I should say this, overwhelmingly positive, and never move into the racism category.
Well,
but we do have. It's like, why y'all got to talk about? Go ahead.
Have you been on our YouTube recently? There's some people be having some stuff to say.
Oh, really?
And I reply, thanks for the analytics! Exclamation point.
Right.
You read it.
Right.
You dropped a comment. That means my video getting a little bit closer. Appreciate it. But they be out there.
Okay, so I will have to go check those. But well, you know what? Because those can be somewhat anonymous. it's hard to be anonymous on like LinkedIn. It's hard to be anonymous in some of these other, especially when people are like sending you messages. So, but every now and again, some folks just don't care. But really, at the end of the day, here's what you would have to believe. You would have to believe that Black, brown, Asian folks are somehow less, which is a problem. Number one, that means that you are suffering from some serious prejudice if that's what you believe. But you would have to believe, if everything being equal, this group is getting rated lower than this group and everything else is equal. You have to either believe that the group that's being rated lower is somehow less, which says something about you and being a racist, or you just have to admit that you are one. And yeah, I'm rating these. I don't like these people. Therefore, why would I want to do anything to help them out? Those are really your only two options that you're left with when you're looking at this kind of stuff. So it is always interesting to me, because like I said, every now and again we will get, it's like, I just don't understand. It's like, it's technology. It's, there's no intent in it at all. And it's like, no, that's not, as long as there are people who have biases that are creating the technology, that can spill over into the technology, how it's applied. As long as there's people who have biases in the way that they're applying it. I'm not saying this about Amazon. I'm just making a statement. You kind of asked this question, Stephanie, why are they using rating systems to determine how their employees are going to be, or their contractors are going to be paid? I'm not putting this on Amazon, but I'm just saying, I do not put it past every company on the planet that would knowingly allow a system that's going to rate people lower because you can pay them less.
Right.
To actually exist.
And that's what they say about, that's what the article said. It was like, why isn't Amazon actively doing more to try to fix this problem? And it does boil down to, you can always follow the money. You know what I mean? It always boils down to the idea that you can pay people less. You don't have to give them those bonuses and those performance increases and things like that.
You say you save money by employing or deploying a system that checks all this stuff. That costs money. And they're like, nah, we ain't doing that.
It's ridiculous. It's like, yeah, if your ratings are consistently 2, I ain't got to give you a raise. And so you keep people in low wage, jobs, and just ugh. That's all I can say.
Yeah, racism makes no sense. I mean, if you really think about it, it's like the most illogical thing.
To the people in power, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That part.
So yeah, so we're going to keep doing our job of just telling story after story after story of how just being more diverse and thinking about people who are beyond your own experience will make you a better company, will make you a better leader, will make you a better employee, will make you a better
good
man.
Luck with that, Playboy.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, it's one of the things to where
we got to fight the good fight, right? Got to fight the good fight.
Leave them chips for your Amazon driver come Christmas. How about that?
So, Tech Light Steph, you put you put someone in the in our lineup for a spotlight this week. And I thought this was so cool. So we're going to do a spotlight this week on Dr. Maggie Aderin-Pocock. Is that, am I saying her name right?
I'm assuming so. Yeah.
Aderin-Pocock. Right. So why don't you go ahead and start doing that, and I'll bring her picture up.
All righty. I was super excited about this one. Dr. Maggie Aderin-Pocock is a space scientist, science communicator, and presenter of the BBC's The Sky at Night. She completed a PhD in the Department of Mechanical Engineering in 1994 after an undergraduate degree in physics, both at the Imperial College London. She is managing director of Science Innovation Limited, through which she organizes public engagement activities which show school children and adults the wonders of space. She received an MBE, that is Member of the Order of the British Empire, in 2009 for services to science and science education. Dr. Aderin-Pocock is a commissioner for the Commission on Race and Ethnic Disparities. Her acclaimed work has ranged from making novel, bespoke scientific instruments, including handheld landmine detectors and optical subsystems for the James Webb Space Telescope, to co-hosting the BBC mainstay astronomy program, The Sky at Night. She has worked on projects to better understand climate change, including the recently launched ESA Aeolus satellite, which measures wind speed in the Earth's atmosphere with the aim of better weather and climate change predictions. As a science educator and the founder of Science Innovation Limited, she has engaged some 350,000 school children, mainly in UK inner city schools, but also around the world. She credits her deep passion for science as the tool that allowed her to break through social mobility barriers. Her book, The Sky at Night, Book of the Moon, was published in September 2018, and her children's book, Dr. Maggie's Grand Tour of the Solar System, was published in 2019. Her new children's book, Am I Made of Stardust, is out in September. This was last year, September 2022. Maggie is the president of the British Science Association. Mattel is modeling a Barbie doll after Dr. Maggie Aderin-Pocock. She's a space scientist whose own interest in space travel goes back to her childhood. She hopes the doll will inspire little girls that STEM is for them. Her mini-me wears a purple dress with stars and crescent moons and comes with her own telescope. I also want to mention Dr. Aderin-Pocock was also dyslexic. So she grew up with a learning disability, but still managed to kill it and have a Barbie made in her image. And if anybody knows me, they know how much I love Barbie. I'm obsessed with Barbie. So this is like the coolest thing ever.
So a couple things. I've actually heard of Dr. Aderin-Pocock before this story came out. And it's like, this is what she reminds me of, almost of like a, what is it, Neil deGrasse Tyson. When she talks about science, she talks about it with such joy and excitement that it's almost impossible for you not to be excited about whatever it is that she's talking about. So she's just got a very infectious personality when she's talking about these very, very scientific things. And it's just really cool. Here's the thing that I looked at. So, Steph, you say you are into Barbie. I know it's been a while, but when I looked at her Barbie doll, it didn't just look like a black Barbie doll. It looked like her. And her features, her side, clearly she's wearing the same outfit. But the question I want to ask for you is, when did Mattel actually start making black Barbie dolls look like black people with actual black features? And it hasn't always been that way.
No,
and, I think we were probably
question.
grown by the time they really started doing it, but
yeah,
it's been a minute.
It definitely was not any time during my childhood, because all of my black Barbies just look like white Barbies with black face, basically. So yeah, I think it's been in the last 10 years at least, though, because I know there was since they've been doing these dolls, as far as making dolls after people. I believe who else have they made?
Well, I would assume I was gonna say, while you think about it, I would assume but to make these kind of dolls, they need a subject versus just being a black Barbie doll in general, right? So I think it's kind of started when Mattel, I'm assuming, said, hey, we want to highlight these particular people, so let's mold a doll specifically out of them versus it just being a black Barbie doll with black features, because I don't know if there's any of those. I could be wrong, but the only ones I've seen are of actual people.
Yeah, I think they all kind of look. I'm sitting here, I'm grabbing my. You can never see it because the thing obscures it, but this is my Rosa Parks Barbie right here, and she pretty much looks like Rosa. I think if you can't see her too close, but she looks like Rosa.
Not to throw any shade, I don't see Mattel just making a black lady as a Barbie doll, a black old lady. You know what I'm saying?
Just a regular, like a regular black girl, as just a like
Yeah.
without having it be a figure,
A person
public
model
figure.
after
Yeah.
somebody. Yeah.
Well, like I said, I'm trying to remember because my daughters were both into them. So by the time that I was buying them for them, the black Barbie dolls that were just like, number one, they were Barbie dolls, but they weren't named Barbie. They were just, Barbie and Ken's friends, but they actually had actual black features. Their hair looked like black hair. For my youngest daughter,
Okay.
they did.
All
And
right.
I'm looking on Mattel's website right now, and I'm staring at a Barbie who has braids and baby hair. She got edges.
Okay.
She got edges laid. I'm like, okay, and the nose is a little,
right.
it's not wide,
All
but it's a
right.
little wider. They got it. Listen, a Barbie
A
Brooklyn
regular old
doll.
black lady. Mhm.
Listen, she looked like a black girl. I might have to get
All
this
right.
doll. It's only $10.99.
All right.
I might
Nah,
have to
that's
buy
dope.
her.
That's dope. A black female space scientist has a
Right?
Barbie doll. That, this was for International Women's Day. Was that last week before last? So
Last week, yeah.
So this is it's a big deal. It's like Barbie Mattel has done a lot. This is not the move that I was expecting. It's like, oh wow. Okay. I see you on this one. It's like,
Just saying.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at it.
Yeah. So y'all, last week, we as I said at the beginning of the show, Top Show, we had a guest on, and we just had a great conversation. We went a little longer than we normally would because I mentioned Patreon at the end of the show, but I didn't actually mention our new patrons. So we actually had last week a couple of new patrons, Jay and Melinda, who became patrons last week. So definitely want to give them their shout out. And then also this week we have Jason, who has become a patron as well. So want to give all of y'all a shout out. Sorry that we didn't get to Jay and Melinda last week, but I made a note to make sure that I was going to get back and give y'all shout out for holding the Tech Jawn down. And for anyone else who would like to support the Tech Jawn, probably the easiest way to do that is to head over to patreon.com/the Tech Jawn, where we've got multiple tiers over there. Our lowest level tier get you access to our after party, get you access to our live stream. Our highest 2-level tiers actually get you access to a ad-free stream when you download the show in your RSS from RSS in your podcatcher of choice. So just want to, once again, remember to head over to patreon.com/the Tech Jawn. That's the Tech JAWN if you'd like to support us over there. And with that, y'all, I think it's about time to wrap this show up. So Tech Life Steph, why don't you tell the folks how they can get at you?
You can follow me all around the web at Tech Life Steph.
And you can find me on the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And I am at Robb Dunewood on all the things. And we are also at the Tech Jawn on all the things. So come and hang out with us there. Until we meet again in a week's time. Peace.
Peace.